So a huge question I often get is, how would you overview or quickly summarize reality-based leadership? And what reality-based leadership is an approach for leaders, a modern approach that is centered around our research findings that the average person spends almost 2.5 hours per day in drama when they're at work. Now, these are people working super, super hard. They're knocking things out. They're checking the boxes. They are busy. But at the same time, they're working hard with what I call a bit of a grudge. So they're getting their things done, they are knocking stuff out, but at the same time, in their heads usually, sometimes out loud, they might be saying things like, yeah, but this is sick and wrong, and this shouldn't be happening, and this is no way to run an organization, and who thought of this decision, and resisting change. It's about 2.5 hours a day. And so reality-based leadership is looked at, and all we focus on is what are those sources of drama? Because if we can identify them and find root cause, then we can give leaders more awareness around those root causes, and then we can have tools to be able to rise above those situations and move forward towards results and happiness. So in our research, what we found is it's not a ton of drama. There are 5 main sources that are really root cause to where drama comes up in the workplace. The first one, ego behaviors. These come out as gossiping, tattling, venting, scorekeeping, comparison, judging. This is about 32% of the drama. So when it comes to ego, all of us have this toggle switch. It's invisible on our foreheads. And when it's toggled down, we're actually seeing the world through the lens of our ego. And this is where we're at the mercy of our circumstances. It's not our fault. I can't fix everything, so how do you expect me to fix anything? And usually my only option's to disengage, and that's a very tough way to work all day. And in the same moment, the same person can flip that light switch up into what we call high self. And it's really simple to move from low self to high self. It's through what we call self-reflection. So that email I opened up with information missing, and I have people that don't care about quality and they don't care as much as I do. When I toggle up into high self and I ask a question for self-reflection, like what do I know for sure? All I know for sure is I have an email with information missing. What's the next thing I could do to add value? Again, toggling up. I could use the phone my organization provides for free and reach out to get the information. Problem solved, I'm on to the next thing. And so this ego comes out so many times during the day, and it really keeps us unaccountable to the truth, and it gets us into judgment. Lastly, when we're toggled up, we have access to what's our part in this and how we can impact it. So we're actually dropping into true accountability in the situation to do something differently to be helpful moving forward. And so that's why the ego technically keeps us from accountability in our work lives. So the second source of drama is lack of accountability. And one of the reasons why that's the second source of drama is accountability in our mindset is actually being accountable to the truth. And so if I'm consistently making up these stories when I open up a simple email, I'm not being accountable to the truth. And when it comes to accountability, so many people reach out and they say, we need to be more accountable, or we need to help our teams with accountability. And they often ask, how can I change this person, or how can I get this group to do what I need them to do? And what we often say is, don't try and change someone, but what you can do is stop enabling them. So a big part that's missed when it comes to accountability at work is noticing the behaviors we're enabling that we don't want that are leading to the poor results. So a common example of enabling I see often is when, let's say, an organization's moving over to a new system for their sales team to have all their leads in one area, there's full transparency, there's forecasting, and it's huge potential for the business. And the top sales guy, Larry, raises his hand and goes, I'm top sales guy, so do I need to use this new system? And a lot of times leaders say, you know what? Because you're top salesperson, you don't have to insert all your stuff on the system because Larry wants to keep his leads buried deep in an Excel spreadsheet, deep in his hard drive. Now that enabling over time shows others what they can maybe do if they don't want to use the system, and it causes a whole bunch of drama, especially when we're looking at, we want to look at inventory and we have everyone's inventory on the system, except for Larry's. And so looking at ways in which we enable is a huge part to growing accountability. Now, the third key source of drama is around buy-in, which is about 14%. And all of us, when we sign up for our job the first day, we're all in. It's like we are all in, we're wide-eyed, and then about a month in, all of a sudden this thing happens where we go into buy-in with a list of conditions. It sounds like this. Yeah, I'm all in to do whatever it takes for the customer, the patient, or those we're trying to serve, as long as you pay us more money, we have more benefits, you guarantee that everyone follows the process as well as I do, that customers get back to me. I'm all in as long as it's easy and as long as there's not too much change and as long as everyone else has the same standards and as long as... And next thing you know, there's a list of conditions on buy-in before I step up and do the work. And this is key because buy-in is a verb. Buy-in is something the individual has to offer up, and leaders, we can only ask for it. And in leadership, you can only work with the willing. I'll never forget, I was in one of my first jobs and our market had shifted and we had a decision that was made. I wasn't consulted on it and I wasn't really sure on it, but that's where the organization needed to go. And some people were on board. I went up to my leader who I had a good relationship with and I said, I heard the decision, I don't think I can get on board. The leader was so curious. They said, well, the decision's been made. What's your plan to get on board? And I go, I just told you, I can't, I'm not gonna. The leader said, well then what risks do you see that we need to mitigate? You're here, help us mitigate the risks. Every decision has risks, let's make it happen. I go, the risks, that sounds like a lot of work. I don't even want to think about the risks. And the leader, so curious, said, well then what's your plan to transition off our team? Now this shocked me. I go, I'm not going anywhere, I want to stay. I love this place, I love my colleagues, I love our mission here. The leader goes, oh thank goodness, we think you have some potential, but I got a question for you. What's your plan to get on board and love the strategy and help us make it work? I go, I just told you I'm not gonna. And the leader said, well then what's your plan to transition to an organization where you do love the strategies? I said, I'm not gonna. And what dawned on me is that there's no third option when it comes to buy-in. You either stay in joy or you leave in peace. And how many times do we let people stay in that third option, which is stay in hate, stay in critique, stay in sabotage, stay and say, I told you so, when the decision doesn't work out without giving much effort. So buy-in is not optional, and it's something that we really got to focus on. Now, the fourth source of drama, still 13%, that we first discovered about 30 years ago, is resistance to change. And can you imagine what other core competency would we give people 30 years to get good at? That's what's been happening with change. And so one of the big myths out there is that change is hard. That's why it's a source of drama. Now, some of our human condition is to initially be a little nervous with change. But what we found in our research is that change isn't hard. It's only hard for the unready. See, the same change can hit a couple of people, but their experience of it is different based on their readiness for what's next. Let's say we give two high performers a brand new smartphone or an iPad to do their work on the system. Person A has kept up with the times. They don't skip upgrades. They're fairly tech savvy and they follow with the pattern of where the world's going. They get the new system and the new smartphone. They're ready to go in about a week. They're grateful. They can't believe their organization invests in them this way. Person B, also a top performer, they've skipped the last 30 upgrades. They might even have the same flip phone they've had since college or high school. And that person's in the fetal position in the corner telling us that change is hard. Now I ask you, was that change hard or was it only hard for the one that was unready? Now this is a big theme to look at across all changes, big or small, that happen in your organization. Yeah, they're different, but how are people experiencing it, and do we slow change down for the most unready? And what does that do to those that are ready to help us evolve? The final source of drama, only about 8%, but it's emerging as a bigger challenge, is when we look at our approach to engagement. And what we found in our research is that engagement, focus on employee engagement without accountability, can create entitlement. What are we talking about here? Many organizations are waking up to the fact that they've over-rotated on engagement efforts, trying to get the perfect circumstances and protect the employees or the individual without shared accountability for what are you going to lean into to help us with that to create a more engaging workplace. So Debbie Driver and Vince the Victim have the same vote 1-to-1 on what we should do differently in our workplace moving forward. So Debbie Driver, who delivers in spite of the circumstances, through obstacles, works with her team, and she's always getting stuff done on time with high quality, has the same vote as Vince the Victim, who hasn't turned a status report in on time for a couple of years. They have the same vote. And a key piece to keep in mind with human behavior, especially when it comes to engagement and these other sources of drama, is that the same workplace can't please a highly accountable mindset and a low accountable mindset at the same time. Your leadership or our approach to leadership in our organizations, in our teams, will always be making one of those groups uncomfortable. So it's our job, with a lot of empathy and a lot of love, but some great universal principles and great research behind leadership, is to ensure that we're making the right group uncomfortable. And so if I'm in a low state of accountability toggled down, there's not much that will ever engage me long-term in the workplace. But if I'm able to be toggled up into high self, accountable, good at change, and easily bought in, I can engage in many different situations. And so those are the 5 sources of drama. And what we found is that success, happiness, innovation, collaboration, teamwork, engagement, creativity, results, all that you're looking for in your organizations and with your teams, it's your people's natural state once the drama's gone. So reality-based leadership helps everyone identify quickly those sources of drama that lead to 2.5 hours a day per person of energy lost, and it helps you recapture that energy and upcycle it and put it into whatever you're trying to achieve. And so this information, this content, these tools can help you do that.